Have you ever wondered how you can respond when someone does something harmful? Has ignoring their behavior or calling them out made things worse? We think that people should speak up when they hear someone make a problematic or offensive statement, but we also feel that our community would benefit from considering some different options that we have when intervening. It's important for members of the University of Calgary community to feel respected and valued. While we know that people may not intend to cause harm in what they say, certain comments or behaviors can have a negative impact on community members. We feel that it's important to equip people with skills to be able to handle these difficult moments effectively. This video provides an overview of calling in and boundary setting, two strategies we can use to respectfully and assertively address our concerns with others. Various examples will be used when addressing these concepts to place the discussion within the context of social justice and encouraging a respectful campus community. The easiest way to understand calling in is to differentiate it from calling out. Calling out is accusatory. It assumes that boundary crossings were intentional. It's frequently done in public, and it usually results in hurt feelings and defensiveness. Someone using the calling out strategy might say, "I can't believe you just used the R word to refer to something as stupid. You're ableist." Or they might say, "What you said was messed up. What were you thinking?" Calling in is essentially calling out, but done with care. It allows us to share our concerns in a non-confrontational way. In doing so, we do our best to avoid escalating the conflict and damaging our relationship with the other person. Calling in is educational and conversational. It recognizes boundary crossings could be unintentional. It's done in private whenever possible, and it's more likely to result in education around the issue and correct behavior. Someone using the calling in strategy might say, "I noticed that you used the R word to refer to something as stupid. Did you know that that could be hurtful to folks with disabilities?" Or they might say, "I know that you value our relationship, so when you made that comment, I wonder if you know the impact it had on me." We encourage you to call in rather than call out whenever possible. That said, there are some situations where it might be more appropriate to call out. For instance, if the situation is urgent and could result in a significant amount of harm, like a physical altercation, calling out would likely be a better fit. You also need to consider your capacity and self-care, and recognize that it's not always your responsibility to educate. If you decide to call out, please ensure that the harm that you create is not greater than the harm that you're responding to. Another great alternative to ignoring problematic behavior or calling someone out is to set a boundary. Boundaries are statements we can make that communicate our needs and expectations. When we set boundaries, we tell other people how they can treat us, what behavior is okay with us, and what isn't. We believe that everyone on campus should feel comfortable and empowered to share their preferences and boundaries to others in respectful ways, and for those boundaries to be respected. We want to give folks tips for sharing some boundaries they might have. Boundaries should be clear, firm, and kind. Some folks may be hesitant to be assertive in conflicts because they don't want to come across as rude or confrontational. Therefore, it's especially important to note that we can be polite when boundary setting. We can set boundaries in any situation. If you're setting a budget boundary, you might say to your friend, "My coffee budget is spent for the month, but I would like to spend time with you. Can we go for a walk instead?" You could set an intimacy boundary by saying, "I don't kiss on a first date, but I'm having a nice time with you and would like to see you again." If someone says something that's offensive, you could set a boundary by telling them, "Please don't make jokes about marginalized groups around me." If you're setting a social media boundary, you can tell the other person, "I saw you added me on Instagram. I like to keep my social media separate from work, so I don't add colleagues on it, but I'd love to connect on LinkedIn instead." Sometimes you need to set boundaries around your time or attention. An example of this is telling a classmate, "Unfortunately, I can't discuss the group project right now because I'm working on an assignment that's due at 4 p.m. That said, I'm happy to chat after 4 o'clock. Just let me know when you're free." You can use the WIN framework if you would like more guidance on phrasing a boundary setting statement. WIN stands for when you, I feel, I need. Optionally, you can add an otherwise sentence that states a consequence of crossing the boundary. If you were to use the WIN framework, you might say, when you write in all caps, I feel uncomfortable. I need you to stop writing in all caps when messaging me. Otherwise, I won't be able to chat with you anymore. Sometimes others will let us know about a boundary that they have. It might feel awkward at first, but learning and respecting boundaries is an important part of maintaining healthy relationships. Practice listening for others' boundaries and respecting them. You can simply respond with, okay, thanks for letting me know. Unfortunately, calling in and boundary setting aren't magic wands. While some folks might have positive responses to these practices, others might have problematic and even adverse reactions. If someone has a problematic response, it can be helpful to think about what our next step will be, or how we will enforce our boundary. Limit setting is a specific type of boundary that allows us to communicate and enforce the type of behavior we're willing to put up with. For example, we might say, I'm willing to speak with you about this, but I can't do that while you're taking jabs at me. Disengagement allows us to get out of an unhealthy situation and cool off. It also prevents the other party from saying or doing something they may regret. If we don't have a relationship with the other person, there might not be a need to communicate our disengagement. But if we have a relationship with them, it can be helpful to let them know we're exiting the conversation. For instance, we might say, this conversation is getting heated and I need a break. As a quick summary, we've discussed the two strategies of calling in and boundary setting. You can use these strategies to respectfully and assertively address your concerns with others. For calling in, we discussed the difference between calling in and calling out, and when these approaches can be used. For boundary setting, we discussed how to respond to someone's boundaries and different types of boundaries that can be made, as well as limit setting and disengagement. These approaches can be used to address problematic behavior rather than ignoring it, while also trying to maintain positive relationships and keep you safe. Thank you for watching this video about calling in and boundary setting. We hope that you found it helpful. For more information and resources, please reach out to the Student Conduct Office through our website or via email.